not sure when you are looking at, but welcome to these pre-concert talks about the Columbus Symphony Orchestra concert on October 22nd at the Commons at 3:30 p.m. in Columbus, Indiana. I am Diego Barbosa-Vásquez, opera orchestra and ballet conductor from Colombia, and I've been rehearsing with the orchestra and preparing to all of you an amazing concert. And one of the elements that we wanted to share with all of you is talk a little bit of the things behind the concert, all of the ideas that we are trying to share with all of you. And to do that, we are doing these pre-concert talks with people from the orchestra, people from the community, with the composers of the pieces that are new, and that way to have a little bit more understanding of what is going to happen in the concert. Today, we have two amazing guests to talk about the Tchaikovsky Fifth Symphony, one of the most known pieces, Russian composer. And because of that, we are very, very happy to have Laura, that is our second principal violin of the CSO. She has been for many, many years with the CSO. She is also a Indiana University graduate, alumni also, therefore very happy to have you and collaborate with you. And also we have Mikhail here, that is a Russian scholar that is talking about amazing and very, very complex elements of transitional justice. And is doing a very interesting research that we are going to talk more in depth during the interview and how that relates with the topics that we are trying to do. Remember, we are doing a concert around Echoes of the War, a journey of self-discovery through music. Therefore, first of all, welcome Laura, welcome Mikhail. Thank you so much for your time. And let's start. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, how you arrived to this place.
Yes, so my background is I was born in Indiana, but I grew up in Paris, France. So I learned French from a young age and was fluent. But then we moved back to the States. So I went to high school then in Kokomo, Indiana, where I was high school sweethearts with the man I married. And then after IU, then we moved here to Columbus.
Okay. And what about you, Mikhail?
Well, I grew up in a small Russian city, which is called Petrozavodsk. After my graduation from college, I moved to St. Petersburg, which is the second largest city in Russia. I started working there. I defended my PhD in 2019. I was working as assistant professor at the European University at St. Petersburg, but on February 24th, 2022, Russia decided to invade Ukraine. Russia started the war. It was, it was a total disaster for me, the personal disaster, and I made a decision to flee the country. And after visiting different countries in Europe, in Caucasus, so I settled here in Bloomington, Indiana for the end of 2023. Yep.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all of that. And well, coming back to Laura, one question that I'm wondering, how you ended up in music and how did you ended up with the CSO?
Well, when I was in France, my school started a strings program when I was in 4th grade. So my first teacher was Madame Nantier. And then I started private lessons with Roland Kovac, who was Russian. So he's the one that started me in private lessons for several years. All my original books are Russian books. And then when I moved to Kokomo, my teacher was Evelina Chow, who is the associate concertmaster of the Indianapolis Symphony. She was a teaching assistant for Dorothy DeLay, if you've heard of her, very famous past violin teacher. And then later this is kind of an aside, but she auditioned into the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra on viola under Pinchas Zuckerman. So she was there. So she was Chinese teacher. And then at IU, I had a Polish teacher. So it's kind of interesting that all my main teachers were not American. And yet my learning and my technique from all of them was extremely consistent. Just really, really consistent teaching. And then after graduation, my husband, that high school sweetheart I mentioned, is an engineer, and he got hired by Cummins here in Columbus. So we moved here, and I immediately started what had been my lifelong dream since I was in 4th grade. I wanted to teach, always wanted to teach. I played school from the time I was a very little girl. So I established the Andrews String Studio. I've taught hundreds of kids, adults also. So I have a string orchestra, several ensembles, and then lots of private students. And I've had a number going into music professionally. And then at that time, I also auditioned into the Columbus, Indiana Philharmonic, which was kind of a miracle that a year after I moved here, they created a part-time professional orchestra. And interestingly, the conductor for that was a grad student when I had been at IU, and he conducted my orchestra when I was a freshman. So I kind of knew who he was. And so then I played for that. Then I moved to England. We moved to England with Cummins for 5 years. So when I was there, I taught in a private school and also played in the Northampton Symphony. And then as soon as I moved home, I hadn't been home but maybe a month, and the Columbus Symphony called. So sometimes communities have trouble getting lots of string players, and especially for the orchestral repertoire, it's challenging music. And so they just needed a professional. So they had concertmaster, and then the principal second. So in that role, I lead sectionals every concert, and I've spearheaded the conductor search 2 different years, and the mentor for the string sectionals, and also education outreach. So I've been in that role for a long time. Then I'm still teaching. So once I returned from England, got back in the Philharmonic, and have my studio. So, and I still play in the CSO. So that's been almost 25 years, I think.
Wow, that's amazing. And so something that really struck me is around the connections that music can do. You were saying you have teachers from many nationalities, and in a way they are always connected through music, no?
You know, speaking of that, another thing I didn't say is the first CSO conductor, his name was Arkady Orlovsky. He was Russian. He was with us for a long time. And right after I graduated from IU, I was hired by the Kokomo Symphony and also taught for them. And Arkady was principal cellist in Kokomo also with me. So we were both there. And then when I moved here and they hired me, he was the conductor of the CSO. I have so many music connections. Everywhere you go are musicians. It's really fun.
That's really amazing. And it's I didn't know that's a very interesting element, that the first conductor was a Russian. That's
the first conductor when I started. Yeah, there was 2 other conductors prior to that.
Okay. Yeah, because when I study strings and I study strings pedagogy, I studied with a Cuban, and Cuban, of course, was very connected with the Russian, and all of the technique from pedagogy perspective, strings pedagogy comes from Russia, actually. And I remember when I was studying Tchaikovsky specifically, one of my theory professors it's actually Ukrainian right now, but by the moment she was there, was the full Russia, no? The Soviet, you are the expert, Mikhail, you can teach us a little bit. And it's very interesting because you see all of these points of connections around the globe and the huge influence that this kind of music has. And that's precisely what we wanted to talk with you, Mikhail, today, because right now, of course, because of the political issues, there are some misconceptions about what is being a Russian right now. And we are doing a Russian symphony. And before I start analyzing the piece a little bit more in depth, I wanted to ask you, just so the audience understand, that we are not talking about political views. We are talking about political research, high-level research, and it's a different thing. And I wanted to ask you, Mikhail, tell us a little bit of your expertise and your main research umbrella and what you are doing today with the immigrants' Russian situation?
Oh, Diego, thank you very much for asking me. Actually, I had experience in analyzing authoritarian politics, how non-democratic regimes operate, how do they suppress the civil laws and freedoms, freedom of the speech, freedom of the gatherings, and etc., etc. But now I decided to switch my topic a little bit, and currently I'm a researcher in a large-scale research project, which aim is to analyze Russian citizens who fled the country, I mean the Russia, after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So how those people live abroad, how do they, try to build communities and commons, including, and this is the idea behind this large-scale research project. But my research interest in this huge research project is a little bit limited. My research, my interest roots in analyzing Russian wartime migrants' attitudes toward political reforms and transitional justice. I'm interested in those topics in order to understand how Russian citizens are considering the ways in order to improve Russian state and Russian society right now.
Okay, and we were talking a little bit on Friday, preparing for all of you the interview, and you were sharing with me some very interesting data about like what people is feeling right now as a Russian living in a different country, and these kind of conflicts between being a Russian because it's your culture, is where you live, is who you are, but at the same time so many moral debates about being a Russian because it's associated also with something that is really bad, that is war. That for me is something totally outside my artistic mind, how a person can kill another just for resources. That's totally outside my understanding. Therefore, could you share with us a little bit of these like little topics around the data that you were able to gather?
Yes, sure. Since March 2023, we have been collecting in-depth interviews with those people. And those people, I mean, Russian citizens who fled the country due to the war, are mostly activists. They are very, active citizens, and en masse, they, suffer from being abroad, and they suffer from the seeing what their home country is doing with the neighbor country, how their country killing other people, how their country, violate laws and any other, basic human, principles. This is why, as I told you on Friday, a lot of people are struggling with some sort of identity crisis. Some of our informants tell that they don't feel that they are Russians anymore. They are searching different sources for identity for themselves, right? So sometimes people identify themselves not with the country, but probably with their home cities, like St. Petersburg, or some national republics, which are, there are some different national republics in Russia, like Tatarstan, Bashkortostan. So they consider themselves as the representatives of those nations, small nations, right? So to make a long story short, being abroad is very stressful, it's very traumatic, and people are searching for different sources of identity right now.
Yeah, no, that's really important to be said by an expert, because that's precisely what we are doing in the concert. If you analyze all of our concert, danzón from Marquez, that is done with a danzón, traditional danzón, that has to start in Mexico, but then go into Los Angeles and try to understand who he was and how to mix both. Similar with the Indian piece, Ismail, that is Indian composer trying to put Indian and Western music together Tchaikovsky, we are going to analyze it more in depth. Similar is going to happen with Columbus, the piece that the orchestra selected, actually. I am not learning that piece. Is precisely trying to understand who we are as a Columbus piece. And of course, Colombia Tierra Querida is from from my country, and understand who we are as Colombians, because this is like the non-official national anthem, that is Colombia Tierra Querida. Specifically with Tchaikovsky, that is very, very clear. We see the same elements, like he's Russian, of course, and he actually became very famous because it was Russian, was the first composer that many people identified as a Russian composer. And however, by these moments when he was composing Fifth Symphony and all of that, we have to remember that he was gay in a moment that was not good, and was not good for Russia either, to broadcast a gay as his most important composer. That's very complicated. And also he was a third generation military family. Therefore, many elements that in a way, the identity challenge that we are seeing today in the Russian immigrants, we are seeing that in the piece. And this is something that we are going to experience a lot. For instance, the second movement is very, very clear how even in very, very amazing melodies, there is something that never allows the composer to be stable, and is always changing and trying to suffer, and is love, but not. But it's very interesting to see how the music is able to reflect that. And in that way, I wanted to ask you, Laura, I'm sure you have been playing this piece so many times. I play it at least in my short life, like 10 times, conducted like 4. I'm sure you have done it so many times. Which has been the experience of doing this music for you? Which are the things that you remember and experience, or situations that you...
I think the first time I played it was when I was in high school, and I played in the Indianapolis Youth Orchestra. Okay. So we took on Tchaikovsky. It was very challenging for us. So back then, I think my first experience, all I was trying to do was learn the technique of it and learn the proficiency skills and not be left behind. And all of us were just working on that and starting to understand the musicality of it. But really, probably the focus was on understanding the music. Probably the last time I played it, I think, was in the Philharmonic, maybe 6 years ago. That's a very different experience when you're playing with professionals, and you're bringing all your concentration and trying to put together as an ensemble just beautiful music, trying to play as one and play with everybody and understand the music of it and to share that with the audience. It's just such exciting music. It's such exciting music. Back when I was in high school, that's when I decided Tchaikovsky was my favorite composer. He remains my favorite composer. His Piano Concerto No. 1 is my favorite piece. My dad used to play it all the time, so that's when I learned it when I was young. So yeah, this will be my most recent time to play it with the Columbus Symphony. For them, I think it will definitely be a challenge. It's a stretch piece for a community orchestra. I think it will grow each person individually as they learn and adapt the skills, and but also collectively as we try to put together the musicianship of it and communicate that to the orchestra is pretty exciting. I think for the orchestra itself will be a growth, and I think they'll learn so much from it and just hopefully enjoy it as much as I always have.
Great. I hope the people enjoys that experience, that challenging experience. Yeah, the rehearsals are... This music is very demanding, as you say, because as we were talking with Mikhail, this is not light music. This is really, really complex in every element. Every piece is actually very complex in different ways. Every style is different. Every style requires different elements. And I'm very glad that the orchestra is doing a really good job with that, doing their best. That is always the way to do it, do their best. Then it's a matter of time, how we build all of the skills. I wanted also to ask you, well, we define careers usually to express ourselves, to use that opportunity to be us and show to the world what we want to do. In the case, for instance, Mikhail, what you decided to take political science and go for this kind of research topic, and how this allowing you to be better as a human?
Oh, speaking honestly, it's kind of tough question, because when I made a decision to enter the college and choose political science as my major, I would not say that I was thinking a lot about it. But as I, delve into this major, I realized that it really can help me to understand what's going on, both inside your own country and in the whole world around you. If I may, I would like to say a couple of words why I decided to be in this part of migration project, because I used to not analyze any diaspora movements, any migrants, and any other topics like that. So my interest in this migration project rooted in the belief that by analyzing migrants, by analyzing those people who are currently struggling, being out of their home country, can really help us to understand what those people think, how do they consider possible changes, political or societal changes that could be bring back in their home country. Any migrants are very inspired source of opinion about how to connect their current life experience to their experience back in their countries, right? So they are a beautiful audience to understand how to make the life in their home countries better. So this is the main motivation for me to be in this part of the project.
Wonderful. And that what you were saying remind me something that is very, very special, that we were talking even at the beginning also, that is the power of connection. And when we listen to other cultures and learn from other cultures, how this becomes very powerful for the development of the society. And this is what we are seeing in the pieces. If you analyze every single piece, it's not only one culture there, it's many cultures. And how rich is the concert is because of that also. And that's why we are doing all of these pre-talks, to be sure that people feel welcome. We are talking about Mexico, as same as we are talking about Los Angeles, as same as we are talking about Columbus or Colombia or Russia or India or many places, because even the Indian piece has elements of chords and an organization of the brasses that could be connected with friends, for instance. Those kind of things shows that music is actually very powerful for connection, and that connections allow us to grow as a society, because if we talk and we understand each other, we are able to be better as a society. Therefore, I wanted to do the last question to you, Laura, about the concert. What do you expect the audience to experience during the concert? You as a player, you as a person that has been in Columbus for so many years, and now also the orchestra and the community there. What do you believe is unique about this concert, and what do you expect them to experience?
Well, it is unique that we have the range of composers, the different pieces, different styles of pieces. Speaking specifically to the Tchaikovsky piece, which is our big work, we're playing 3 of the 4 movements. For me, sometimes I'm thinking about the audience's experience as they're listening. And sometimes I'm just kind of in myself experiencing the music myself. But what that experience is are all these emotions, which is why I like Tchaikovsky. And he has the tender, he has the passionate, he has the strong, he has the romantic. He brings, in this particular piece, there's kind of a cohesive theme throughout the movements. They say it's about fate. I don't know about that. I can't necessarily tell that when I'm playing it, but I do experience a lot of emotion, especially when I'm in the concert. And there's something about music that does not have words that speaks, I think. I know it sounds a little corny, but I really believe it genuinely because it's why I went into music. It speaks right to the heart. You're not saying this, you're not saying opinions, you're just heart to heart. We have that composer's music, we the musicians are feeling it, and we communicate it to the audience. So it's this very special exchange. That's what I'm excited about for this concert.
No, that's really amazing what you say, and you made me to remind one thing that we were talking with Mijail on Friday, that I guess that we don't use the same words that I'm gonna say, but what's the same topic is around art allow us to communicate and do things by the heart or by the soul. Usually when you are the researchers, we use, or when we are doing politics and all of that, we use too much the brain. And the brain sometimes create or focus in the differences. That is okay, we are rational too. But the soul and the heart actually focus in what make us similar, in the things that we share. And those kind of things are done with music, because no matter which language you are talking, you can come to a concert don't knowing anything about music, and you are going to experience an emotion. That's the thing that art is for. You go to a museum, you don't need to know anything about the piece. The piece is going to talk. You don't need to know anything. Or going to see architecture. Columbus is amazing in architecture. Just go and experience. That's the thing that art makes, that we don't need to think it, just experience. And with that, once again, I invite you all to come to our concert. Remember, October 22nd at 3:30 p.m. at the Commons in Columbus, Indiana, with the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. See you all there. And Mijail and Laura, thank you so much for your time today. It's very, very great to talk with you. Very special. Hope to see you in the concert, Mijail, if you have time. And of course, I'm gonna see you, Laura, there doing an amazing leadership of all the section.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Diego. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. See you in the concert.